Tonight, Rush Limbaugh goes on the record, and it is the in-depth interview you will only see right here. Here's Rush Limbaugh. Rush, nice to see you.
Thanks, Greta. Great to be here as always.
Thank you. And of course, we love being here, although we blew out your power when we arrived.
Well, it's the second time it's happened. We should have been more prepared for this, but it only kept us off the air about 3 minutes. We'll send you the bill.
And of course, it's the second time, though, but it's also the first time was us, too.
Yeah, it was. Both times. The only 2 times.
All right. Well, anyway, next time, I promise we won't do it. 2012 election. What do you think is the most important issue to conservative Americans?
Obama. Everything Obama. That's the most important issue to conservative Americans. I don't know how you separate Obama from his policies. Obama is his policies, and Obama's the problem. Obama has a vision of this country that is not held by anywhere near a majority of people. You realize Barack Obama had run for office in 2008 campaigning on what he's done. He wouldn't have got 30% of the vote, if that, which is pretty much commensurate with the way that I think how liberals have to run. They have to lie. They have to mischaracterize who they are, what they want to do, what they stand for. They are a minority in this country. They're a minority of thought, but they are not perceived that way. They got the mainstream media with them. The perception is that they're a much larger bloc than they really are. But if you had to signal out one thing about Obama, it'd be Obamacare. I mean, that sums up, I think, everything that's disastrous, dangerous, destructive about Barack Obama. If that health care bill is not reformed, repealed, the country is going to change forever in ways that people cannot possibly imagine. It's going to be a massive loss of individual liberty and freedom. And once the government has control of health care and the costs involved, then they can dictate every aspect of the way you live based on saving money, whether or not you're going to be treated based on your age, and whether somebody thinks it's worth it to save you if you have some sort of a bad disease. It's just bad all the way around. And people ask me, you really think these things that you say about Obama? And I do. I mean, from the bottom of my heart. And if you'll recall, January 16th, before Obama was inaugurated, I was asked to write a piece for the Wall Street Journal, 400 words on what I hope for the president. And I remember at that time, everybody was awash in the glow of the first black president, all the historical aspects of it. And that didn't matter to me. Once he was elected, cool, fine, great achievement. His policies matter to me, what he's going to do. And I told the Wall Street Journal, it won't take 400 words, I can do it in 4. I hope he fails. And what I meant by that was I hope that everything he wants to do policy-wise fails. He hasn't failed. He has succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, I'm sure. This is national single-payer health care, which is where this is headed, if it happens. Huge, huge achievement, ball game. The green energy stuff, I mean, that's all a hoax and a fraud based on another hoax and fraud, global warming. And I do get interested in motivations, why politicians do things they do, what motivates them. A lot of people don't care to get involved with that. I do, because I think it's a track. It can give you an idea of where they're going in the future if you understand what it is that motivates them. And I have always suspected that Obama has a chip on his shoulder about the country, that he doesn't think of it as great. He doesn't think of it as exceptional. He thinks of it as criminal in many ways, as guilty in many ways. He thinks that our superpower status was a result of theft, resources and ideas from other nations all over the world. He believes the multicultural garbage that we came here, kicked the Indians off the land and brought with us racism, sexism, bigotry, homophobia, slavery, and all that. And I think that Obama wants the people of this country to find out what it's like to live the way he thinks we have forced other people around the world to live. And he said it. We went to Osawatomie, Kansas. He basically said that the way this country founded has never worked. Self-reliance, the way he characterized it was even, to me, offensive, that everybody out fending for themselves. Self-interest has fed more people than charity ever has. Self-interest, everybody trying to do for the best for themselves, not selfishness, but self-interest, raises everybody up. It offends him. And he says, it's never worked. So he said, 230, 40 years, whatever, America has never worked. The rich are the problem. Who believes that the rich are the reason we've got an economic mess? He does, or he wants people to believe it. It's offensive. It is outrageous. And I don't relish the thought of 4 more years of this.
Is he, in your mind, a bad guy, or is it a different ideology?
One and the same. What do you mean by bad guy? Could be a little loaded.
I guess I mean a motive to, an intentional motive to hurt the country versus his ideology is one that the way to achieve ideals is different values.
This is the question. We are living under a number of assumptions about Obama that have been presented to us by elites, both parties. One of the illusions is that Obama's brilliant. He's smarter than anybody else in the room. It was messianic. We have never had a politician like this in our midst. We were told in 2007, 2008, nobody like Obama has ever trod our soil. It was going to unify us. The world was going to love us again. It's going to lower the sea levels. I mean, ridiculous stuff. So the question is he just dumb? Does he really believe this economic stuff? Does he really believe that taking capital money out of the private sector and transferring it to government and unions is the way you grow the private sector? Is that the way created? Does he really believe that? Is he that ill-educated? Is he the product of nothing other than the American education system and whoever influenced him at home when he was young? Or is he an ideologue? Is he a Marxist socialist who has an agenda that's oriented toward cutting the country down to size? I mean, that's the question. For me, the answer to the question is irrelevant. I simply, whatever he's doing, why he's doing it, it's obvious he is doing it. He is taking steps, he's had policies that are injurious to the country, injurious to individuals, targeting as the enemy the people who work in this country, targeting as the enemy the people who pay taxes. This business of this Occupy Wall Street crowd, which is his, was created, I think, on the basis that Romney was going to be the Republican nominee. Romney's Wall Street, so you get Obama's band out there, Occupy Wall Street, protesting. It was set up to oppose Romney. Wall Street blamed for all of these ills in the economy, like the subprime mortgage problem. That's the subprime mortgage problem, which is the root of this economic disaster we're in, was strictly created by government. It was a plan designed, as Barney Frank has said, affordable housing. Put people in homes that couldn't afford them. Loan them money knowing they can't pay it back. Community Redevelopment Act. Bill Clinton started it, Jimmy Carter and Janet Reno, Andrew Cuomo. They forced lending institutions to make these loans, these mortgages, people can't pay them back. The lending institutions are holding worthless paper. That's no good. So what do? They come up with creative ways to turn that worthless paper into something of value by creating mortgage-backed securities that they then sell to another unsuspecting bunch of dupes down the line. And that kept happening until there was nobody left to buy them. The whole thing blew up. And it's where we are. And Wall Street had nothing to do with it. They're a convenient enemy. Obama loves to run around and talk about Wall Street tricked people into coming in and getting these loans. Wall Street didn't tick anybody. They were told, they were ordered by the government to make these loans in fairness, stop redlining against minorities and so forth. It was liberalism on parade. Liberalism has given us every problem that we're facing in this country today, without exception. Now, whether liberals are dumb and stupid and ill-educated, or whether what this is purposeful, too late now to draw the distinction. It's happening, and they're doubling down on it. 3 years, and every policy to create jobs hasn't worked. Greta, do you realize there are 2.5 million fewer jobs in America than there were when Obama was immaculated? That's why the unemployment rate's dropping. There are fewer jobs. The universe from which we create this percentage has shrunk. The real unemployment rate, who was it? So there's 2 people have said this. Oh, Financial Times guy, some guy named Luce, James Pethokoukis at Reuters. If the same number of jobs existed when Obama was inaugurated, the real today, as in 2008, then the real unemployment rate would be 11%. It's a disaster. And there's been plenty of time to realize it doesn't work and to change course. He hasn't done that. So to me, it's patently obvious he's not going to do it because he doesn't believe in it. What's happening, I think he enjoys.
Do you think he's going to get reelected?
Well, you know, it's a year away, 11 months away, and anything can happen. If the election were today, no. If the election today, he'd lose in a landslide. I don't believe the conventional wisdom that the Republicans only have one person that can beat him. I don't believe the conventional wisdom that his $1 billion can dwarf any campaign, that his association with the media can disparage and criticize any opponent to the point they can't win. The American people are hurting. Obama can't run his record. The last thing, he cannot say, vote for me for 4 more years. All Obama can do is run a negative campaign, tear apart his opponent, tear apart the country in the process. You know, these 2 guys that appear on your network a lot, Cadell and Schoen, they wrote a piece begging him to get out, make way for Hillary. They said his only chance is to run such a scorched earth campaign. Even if he wins, he's torn the country apart in the process, divided it worse than it's been in decades, not worth the price that his reelection would, and he wouldn't have a mandate to do anything after he wins. But I think he's imminently defeatable. So I don't believe the inside the Beltway conventional wisdom about elections pretty much in any regard.
You mentioned Hillary Clinton. Would she have been a different president in your?
Not ideologically.
How about in what she accomplished?
I think she would have sought much the same kind of thing. I don't know whether she would have succeeded, for example, in getting health care passed. But people have forgotten. You look what they were this close to deeming health care passed without voting on it. That close to deeming it because they really didn't have the votes for it, even with their own party. There was so much finagling going on to get health care passed. That whether Hillary could have gotten it done or not, but she's an Alinskyite. I mean, she's a disciple of the same community organizer and agitator that inspired Obama. So to me, it would have been 6 of one, half dozen or the other.
Has either one of them done anything that has impressed you?
You know, I get this question all the time. Obama done anything to impress me? I like the number of vacations he takes. I wish I could take that many. He's played 10 times the rounds of golf that I've played this year. But I'm not. See, the root of that question is there anything nice? Because they may be perfectly nice people, Greta. I'm strictly oriented toward policy, and in the area of policy, well, I guess Obama was honest last December when he acknowledged he had to extend the Bush tax cuts. You remember during the lame duck session of Congress. And if you go back and listen to what Obama was saying a year ago, last December versus today, it's 2 different people. Last year, we couldn't end the Bush tax rate cuts because that would be a huge tax increase on the middle class. Well, now, wait a minute. Up until then, the Democrats and Obama said, no, the Bush tax cuts were for the rich only. Bush didn't cut tax in the middle class. Of course, he did. The Bush tax rate reductions were across the board for everybody. And Obama did not want to get rid of those last year because he did not want people with less money in their back pocket be a tax increase in his re-election year. But that irritated his base, so now he had to promise January on through this year to get rid of it. The Bush tax cuts are now the big enemy. He's going to get rid of them, raise taxes on the rich. Totally disingenuous. But he was honest last December when he talked about the value of the Bush tax cuts and what damage would be caused if they got rid of them.
Straight ahead, much more with Rush Limbaugh. What does he say is the biggest problem for Republicans in 2012? Rush will tell you next. Once again, here is Rush Limbaugh. Why has Governor Mitt Romney not had a so-called surge? We hear surge used with basically every Republican nominee, but you don't see that surge with Governor Romney.
Well, every poll I've seen of Republican primary voters, he can't crack 30%. It has been curious. And you look at it from the reverse, 70% of Republican voters want somebody else. This is why we have the phenomenon of the not Romney. Bachmann was the not Romney for a while. Herman Cain was the not Romney. Now Newt is the not Romney. I think it boils down to something that's not complicated at all. Republican primary voters are conservative. They don't believe that Romney is. They believe that he will stick a finger in the air and moisten it and see which way the winds are blowing and try to get in that direction. They remember that Romney said he believes in global warming and he believes that man is causing it. Well, conservatives don't believe that. They believe it's a hoax. In fact, conservatives know that the whole story of man-made global warming is a hoax. And they're not going to get excited by a candidate who is trying to gain favor with non-Republican primary voters by articulating that stuff. Here's the big problem, Greta, for the Republicans. And I am a lone wolf on this. The rule of thumb in elections, both parties, 40% are going to vote Democrat, automatic. Whatever you do. 40% are going to vote Republican, automatic, no matter what you do. And in the middle, who do we have? These precious, God love them independents and the moderates. And they are the targets. They are the focus of every election. And our brilliant campaign consultants tell our candidates they are the ones that know how to go get a majority of those independents. And we have, as Republicans, put ourselves in prison to this whole silly notion that you only win elections by moving to the center and getting great independence. Fine and dandy, but if you squander your base in the process, you haven't a prayer. The Republican Party is trying to do something in this primary that is unprecedented. They're trying to split the conservative vote and win the primary with a moderate, with Romney. It's the other way around normally. You consolidate your base, and then you move to the center of the general. The Republican establishment has decided they don't want any part of conservatism. And this is really not new. People surprised to hear this. But the Republican Party formative event with conservatism is Goldwater's landslide defeat. That's what they think of when they think conservative. They don't think Reagan. They think Goldwater. They believe what the inside the Beltway philosophy is about conservatives. They're racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, Southern hayseed hicks. They're pro-lifers. They're embarrassing to have to go to convention with them. And they're just embarrassed to have those kind of people at party. They're dumb. They're not erudite. They're not educated in Ivy League schools. We'll take their votes on Election Day, but we really don't want to hang around them. And we don't want anybody in Washington thinking that we're really that close to them and aligned with them. So in the process, it's a very sophisticated electorate. The Republican primary voter can sense that the Republican Party really doesn't like them, really doesn't want them, thinks that they are the route to defeat. That's the problem in a nutshell. The Republican establishment thinks that a conservative nominee is the route to defeat because they think Goldwater landslides are going to happen. Because they believe what the popular misconception the left has created of conservatives, they think everybody thinks that. And so the independents, this is the craziest thing. Listen to this. I love this. Barbara Boxer said yesterday that Republicans with this latest bill on the payroll tax and the pipeline want to kill 8,100 people. 8,100 people. Barbara Boxer, Republicans want to kill 8,100 people. Republicans want dirty air, dirty water. Republican CEOs want to kill their customers. Okay, now that's what the Democrats say. You've got mean-spirited extremist stuff coming out of Harry Reid's mouth and Pelosi's mouth. You got that. And you have our candidates. There was a fascinating news story on Yahoo News the other day. Yahoo inadvertently was invited to listen to a conference call between the RNC and a polling group. I think it was Torrance. The RNC was seeking advice from Torrance on how to beat Obama. And the people at Torrance said, well, don't criticize him personally. He's got very high personal numbers. That people love him. People even feel sorry for him. Said, don't attack Obama. Okay, well, you lose. If that's what you're going to do, you lose. Because you can't separate Obama from his policies. You can't. And they said, don't bring up Jeremiah Wright. Don't bring up Bill Ayers. Don't bring up anything. Don't go personally. You get to people like Obama. Well, okay, put ourselves in a straitjacket. We lose. And that belief system is rooted in the fact that the great 20%, precious independents and moderates, don't like conflict, don't like criticism of Obama, don't like confrontation. They want us to work together across the aisle, compromise. Fine. Really? So we criticize Obama, they're going to run off to Nancy Pelosi? or Barbara Boxer, who's accusing us of killing people. They look at the Democrats as mild-mannered compromisers. It's a bunch of crap, Greta. This whole notion that the Republicans can't be confrontational, can't be aggressive, can't go on offense because they're going to tick off the independents and instead of running the Democrats is a scam philosophy that has been foisted upon us to shut us up. It's a minor version of political correctness. We're not supposed to be honest in what we believe. We're not supposed to be critical of liberalism or socialism. It makes the independents nervous. So what do? We nominate milquetoast moderates. And what do? They lose. But we feel better about ourselves. And I actually think that if you could you talk to these guys, Republican establishment, elected officials, party officials, certain inside the Beltway media, you just ask me, can Obama be beat? I said, hell yes. They'll tell you they don't think so. They're scared to death. They're totally on defense. And I'm going to tell you something. Nobody ever won anything defending anything. You win on offense. You win attacking. You don't win defending anything because you can't advance. If you're always defending, you can't advance anything. So we've got this notion that I think they believe Obama can't be beat, but they want the Senate back. They want their chairmanships. They want the Congress back in total, House and Senate. They think maybe they can stop Obama that way. But more importantly, they're in charge of the money if they get the committee chairmanships. I would rather have somebody who thinks Obama can be beat, knows Obama can be beat, and wants Obama to be beat. And that's going to be somebody who's conservative, not moderate, not squeamish, not populist. We don't need a candidate who's going to try to say things or be things he really doesn't believe or really isn't, to try to pick off a couple independents or Democrats here. Because I think conservatism appeals to everybody if it's articulated properly, passion, good cheer. Because conservatism is all about the best for everybody. It's all about the best everybody can be using whatever ambition and desire they've got. Not shackles, we don't look at people and say you can't do that, you're not capable. We don't look at people with contempt like a Democrat Party does and liberals do and see a bunch of failure that needs to be guided from the time they're born to the time they die by government. It's obscene what is happening to this country. The family that's being destroyed by welfare programs. I saw something USA Today, just today. 50 years ago, 71% of adults were married. Today, 51% of adults are married. Now, okay, big deal. Families. There are fewer families, fewer mom and dad families. The government has replaced one of the parents financially. So there's a cultural rot, there's a cultural decay, and all of this has been brought about by the good intentions of liberals in the Democrat Party, and we're not supposed to question their good intentions. Great Society, why, we were trying to bring people out of poverty, but you haven't. Well, we were trying. You can't criticize. Yes, I can. You failed. It's a disaster. Obamacare is a disaster. His stimulus has been a disaster. We can't afford more. Look at the debt. Look at the prison that future people, not even a thought in a couple of adults' heads yet, are already in prison because of the tax rate they're going to pay just to deal with this debt. And we can't afford what we're spending on anything right now. It's absurd. It has to be stopped. And it can't be done even in one election. This is the first, and then reversing things, reducing the size of government is going to take some committed people.
Coming up, does Rush Limbaugh have a favorite? Which candidate or candidates does he think could beat President Obama? Rush Limbaugh answers that question next. Our conversation with Rush Limbaugh continues. The topic, the battle for the White House. If you think someone who's moderate cannot beat Obama or should not be selected by the Republican Party, who is the most conservative who fits the bill of what you think is a Republican who can beat Obama?
Well, I think, again now, if the election were held today, and see, I know that since I do not subscribe or practice conventional wisdom, that my answer here is going to discredit me with all the, professional political experts. But I think right now, anybody other than Ron Paul could beat Obama if the election were tomorrow. Easily. Who is most conservative? The Romney and Gingrich are fighting it out. And all kinds of things are surfacing, such as Romney. We had a tape 2002 the other day on the radio program where Romney, campaigning for governor of Massachusetts, said, and I don't want anybody to be mistaken, I'm not a partisan Republican. I am a moderate. Okay, fine. People said, Rush is running for election in Massachusetts. He's got to do that. That's my point. If you're going to be what you think you have to be here on one day, based on where you are, here another day, then people are going to question whether or not you're genuine. And he comes out with his global warming thing. Yeah, I believe it's getting warmer, and yeah, I think man's causing it. That was in answer to a planted question at a town hall meeting or a press conference he had. And it was some new castrati liberal guy who got in there and asked the question. And I'm sure Romney thought probably the best answer he could give, given that he's in the Northeast, New Hampshire, I think it was. And then Newt writes a book in 2009 praising Andy Stern, the SEIU, greatest president ever is FDR. So a lot of things are shaking out here. On the other hand, I know that calls on my radio show, talk to people, a lot of people are hoping Rick Perry catches fire again, or Bachmann or Santorum catch fire and come alive, because perception is that there's no doubt concern about their conservative credentials. There's no doubt that every day either of those three would be fighting for the country, for what they believe in, exactly as they're campaigning for it. There isn't any qualification of belief over here or change because of where you happen to be or what the audience is or who the audience is. I don't want to be misunderstood as seeking perfection, because it doesn't exist. We're all imperfect, everybody. There's no such thing as perfection, and there's no way to remove risk from life. So you can't achieve perfection. You can try for it, it's a great motivation, but you can't remove risk, and you can't achieve perfection. Nobody is going to be flawless. At the end of the day, somebody's going to win this nomination fight. It's up to them to win it. It's not up to people in the media to hype them, to endorse them. I don't think that works much anyway. So at the end of the day, somebody's going to win this, and the hope I have is that there's enough left to unify this conservative base behind that candidate, because it's going to take a base fully participatory, not sitting home in a peak of anger because another McCain's been nominated, for example. It's going to have to be somebody that's going to be inspiring, get people to the polls. There'll be a lot of fraud, crazy things happening in various states, but I'm imminently, profoundly optimistic that we can win.
Well, you named Bachmann, Santorum, and Perry as being not like Romney and Gingrich, where they've had different or obvious different views on important issues. Why do you think that Bachmann, Perry, and Santorum can't get any sort of movement in the polls? They're way low in the polls.
Well, that's, I think, largely both Romney and Gingrich are personalities. They've been around for years. Newt is larger than life. Newt is well known. A lot of people's memory of Newt is, here's a guy that actually cut government. Here's a guy that actually balanced the budget. Here's a guy that actually took the House back from the Democrats. A lot of people have that memory. Bachmann is a member of Congress. She's had, 100,000 people vote for her. This is her first foray on the national stage. Rick, his last foray was a Senate defeat. Perry is a governor coming out of Texas, running on the national stage for the first time. And voters are, I think people are naturally suspicious. They're going to take a while to get to know people, and they're going to watch these early debates to size them up for confidence, ability to speak, all these kind of things. A lot of it depends on who's asked what in these debates, who gets a lot of time, who doesn't. There's so many variables in this. But it boils down to it is up to these people to get noticed. It's their job. They're running. It's up to them to get noticed. It's up to them to get the votes. It's up to them to make the connection that lights people up. Why some people can do it, like I can, and others can't, talent, I guess. Who knows?
The debates, helpful to the American people or not so useful?
Well, these are, this series of debate, I think they've, on balance, most of them have actually been very good. They've been very thorough, and I think they've had many, many good debates where conservatism was actually well articulated and explained and argued about. And I think the early debates, there was a doubtless unity that the real target here politically was Obama. That's who everybody was focused on beating. I'll tell you one thing that fears me or worries me about the whole concept of debates, though, on television, is that Republicans, conservatives, are fed up with their candidate being perceived as an idiot, stupid, hayseed hick. The Democrat candidate is always portrayed as erudite, brilliant, smart, well-spoken, articulate. George Bush was not those things. George Bush spoke haltingly, had deer-in-the-headlight appearance eyes, sometimes on camera. And throughout the 8 years, the undercurrent was Bush was stupid, Bush was dumb, and he never fought back. Karl Rove will tell you, they did not respond or defend any of that stuff, counter it. So it was allowed to sit and grow and fester. And so now the Republicans, I would call today, I'll vote for Gingrich just because I think he can mop the floor with Obama in a debate.
Coming up, the Tea Party, but it is not what you're thinking. Rush Limbaugh talks tea next.